The listening post floated in the cold dark, far from any sun. Its alien crew had been staring at the same empty starfield for years. Nothing ever moved out here. Space was quiet, predictable, safe, until tonight. The youngest officer noticed. At first a shadow, huge and silent, sliding across the black. At first he thought his sensors were broken. It was too big, much too big. The readout showed a mass greater than any known civilian ship, even larger than most military carriers. Yet it made no sound, no energy spike, no signal. It was simply, "They're moving," he called the commander. They ran scans, no registration codes, no known design in the galactic archives. The object's hull seemed to drink in light, making it almost invisible. It moved with purpose, a straight course toward the core systems, not slowing, not answering hails. The crew tried again. It's an unidentified vessel. State your origin. Static. No response. They sent the distress call to the nearest patrol fleet, their voices shaking. Ships didn't just appear like this. In space, there was always a record, a history, a trade route. But this thing had come from nowhere. News traveled fast. In the alien capital, the High Council gathered around a giant display. The object was already being called a ghost ship. Some thought it might be a derelict. Others whispered about ancient weapons from forgotten wars. One senator laughed and said it was probably just a slow freighter. No one laughed when the footage arrived. A scout corvette had reached the object. The video feed showed a vast black shape against the stars. No markings, no visible windows. Just an endless wall of armored plates, layered and reinforced like nothing in their databases. The corvette's pilot circled slowly, broadcasting in multiple languages. Still no answer. Then the ship moved. It didn't turn or accelerate in any visible weight, simply appeared to shift in space, closing the gap instantly. The alien crew on the corvette shouted in panic, the camera shaking. Something glimmered. Along the black hull, like faint lines of fire running through metal veins. Then white light filled the screen. Transmission cut off. The listening post tried to hail the corvette. No reply. Scanners showed nothing left in that section of space. Not wreckage, not debris, not even radiation. It was as if the ship had erased them completely. Across the galaxy, people watched the final frames of the footage. The alien news networks looped it for hours. Armchair experts speculated about impossible weapons. Admirals studied the ship's lines, searching for weak points. Pirates dreamed of stealing its technology. And in every conversation, one question burned. Who built this monster? One archivist, buried deep in the High Council's vaults, found an answer. She compared the black ship's hull design to ancient records from the Outer Fringe Wars. There was a match, not exact, but close enough. The material, the angles, the style, all belonged to one species, humans. The galaxy had known of humans for less than a century. They were young, small, and loud, with tiny colonies and no great fleets. Their ships were modest, their weapons outdated. No one feared them, and yet, here was something no empire could explain. A ship the size of a city, bristling with unknown. Systems, able to erase a vessel in seconds. The Council tried to contact Earth. No reply. They sent encrypted probes toward the black ship. Every probe vanished before reaching it. Fear began to spread. On a quiet agricultural moon, a child asked her father why the stars seemed darker these days. The father had no answer. On a mining station, two old veterans argued in hushed voices. One swore he'd seen something like it. Decades ago, during the human war against the Varatha, the other told him to keep quiet before the wrong ears heard. The ship kept moving, always forward, always toward the heart of galactic civilization. It never slowed, never turned, never spoke. Civilian traffic rerouted. Military fleets assembled in its path. No one dared to fire yet. The High Council debated for days. But in the end, they agreed on one thing. They needed to know the ship's purpose. Was it a weapon? A colony ark? A threat? The galaxy could not wait for the answer to come by itself. So they sent another fleet larger, better armed, with orders to surround and board it if possible. The fleet reached the object after 3 days. From a distance, the black hole looked dead.
How?
No lights, no movement. They approached in tight formation. Fighters ready, shields up. The boarding craft launched, small specks racing toward the silent wall. And then the ship spoke. A voice cold and calm filled every com channel in the fleet, speaking in perfect galactic standard. Do not approach. Do not interfere. Captains hesitated. Some ships held position. Others pressed forward, unwilling to retreat without answers. The black ship did not repeat itself. Instead, a faint hum began to echo through the fleet's scanners. Like the slow beating of some vast metal heart, one captain gave the order to fire. It was the last order he ever gave, in less than 10 seconds. Every ship that had moved closer was gone. No fire, no explosion, just gone. The black ship's course never changed. The survivors, terrified, fled and spread the warning. Humanity had built something the galaxy could not match. Somewhere, on a hidden world far from any map, a human admiral watched the news reports. His lips curled into the smallest of smiles. The behemoth had been seen. The first move was made. The galaxy, though it did not yet know it, would never be the same again. The behemoth kept moving, silent as a shadow across the stars. It's black. Armor reflected nothing. No beacon lights, no visible thrusters. Only the faint shimmer of its outline against the galactic backdrop told anyone it was there at all. Yet everywhere, its name was already spreading whispered in fear. On the central world of the Thavori Republic, the High Council chamber was overflowing. News crews crowded the balconies. Diplomats shouted over each other. Holograms of the alien sectors flickered in the air, each one marked with the ship's projected path. The behemoth was heading straight toward the core trade lanes, the busiest and richest arteries of galactic civilization. The admiral of the Thavar fleet stood before the chamber. His voice was heavy. Our scout fleet did not survive contact. There was no debris, no escape pods. The human vessel issued a single warning and then erased them. He let the word hang in the air. Erased, not destroyed. Erased. Gasps and murmurs rolled through the chamber. The word carried weight. Destroyed meant wreckage, smoke, fragments. Erased meant nothing like the ships had. Never existed. The council's speaker demanded answers. How can a primitive species like humanity have such a weapon? They have no great empire, no shipyards capable of this scale. The admiral shook his head. We do not know. Official fleets are small and outdated. But this is something else. Far across the stars, in the independent rim systems, smugglers and mercenaries crowded into bars, replaying the grainy footage of the behemoth. They paused on frames that showed strange glowing lines along its hull, trying to guess their purpose. Some said it was a railgun system. Others swore it was an energy shield. Most just drank in silence, unwilling to admit they were afraid. The Galactic Intelligence Network gathered everything it could on humanity. Their agents returned with scraps, rumors of an old war, whispers of hidden bases in uncharted sectors. One report told of a project called Black Forge, an Earth military program so secret even human colonies denied it existed. Another claimed the behemoth wasn't a warship at all, a living machine. Whatever it was, every major power now wanted it. Not to destroy, at least, not at first, but to capture, study, and turn against their enemies. A meeting was called. On the capital world of the Vratha Dominion, one of the galaxy's oldest and most feared empires. The Vratha had fought humans 80 years ago and dismissed them as stubborn but weak. Now, they were not laughing. Our fleets will intercept the behemoth, declared the Vratha warlord. We will take it apart and feed its creators. To the void, scouts were dispatched, tailing the ship from just beyond sensor range. They kept their distance, careful not to repeat the mistakes of the Thavori fleet. But even from far away, strange things happened. Their long-range cameras would blur whenever the behemoth filled the frame. Data logs showed impossible readings, mass shifting, hull length changing by kilometers between scans. The ship didn't slow for anything. It passed through asteroid fields without turning, the rocks breaking apart before touching its hull. It skirted close to suns, its black surface drinking in the heat without a trace of damage. It seemed unstoppable, a silent predator moving with purpose. Inside the behemoth, the crew worked without speaking much. They were human, but not like the humans the galaxy knew. These were operatives raised from birth for this mission. They spoke in short, coded phrases, their eyes focused, their hands steady on controls. At the heart of the ship, deep inside, armored bulkheads sat the command throne occupied by Admiral Caravas. She watched the star maps with calm precision. Every fleet movement in the surrounding sectors was tracked. Every spy probe was erased the moment it entered range. She knew the galaxy was watching, plotting, fearing. That was the point. The mission was not to hide. The mission was to be seen. Her voice, quiet but commanding, carried through the bridge. They will try again soon. When they do, we show them only what we choose, nothing more. Out in the void, another fleet was gathering, this one from the combined forces of 3 smaller empires. Their plan was to surround the behemoth in deep space, trap it with gravity nets, and board it with thousands of soldiers. The trap was set in a region of space littered with drifting wrecks from an ancient battle. The behemoth entered the kill zone right on schedule. The fleets closed in, weapons primed, nets ready. The boarding ships launched in waves. Racing toward the silent black hull, every comm channel in the area went dead. Pilots screamed into radios. That no longer worked. Commanders shouted orders no one could hear. The stars themselves seemed to dim. It didn't fire weapons in the way the galaxy understood. There was no flash, no explosion, only a ripple in space, like a stone dropped into water. When the ripple faded, the boarding craft were gone. So were 2 of the attacking fleets. The survivors fled without even trying to fire a shot. Hours later, across thousands of worlds, a simple message appeared on secure military channels. It was the same for every government, every fleet commander, every intelligence agency. Do not follow. Do not interfere. As your only warning. The galaxy had just been given its answer. Still, the behemoth kept moving. The warning was clear. But the galaxy had never been good at listening. Pride was a dangerous thing, and for the great empires. Pride was everything. The behemoth's destruction of the combined fleet had humiliated leaders across dozens of worlds. News broadcasts replayed the moment the fleets vanished. Some called it sorcery. Others claimed it was an experimental gravity weapon. Scientists argued on public channels, each desperate to explain what they didn't understand. And in the shadows, military planners began whispering about the unthinkable, coordinated strike involving every major power. But there were those who saw an opportunity. In the pirate stronghold of Morix's Rift, a gathering of warlords and smugglers took place. They were not fools. They had no interest in fighting the behemoth. Instead, they plotted to follow it, scavenging whatever debris was left after future battles. Even the smallest fragment of its technology could be sold for fortunes. The meeting ended with promises sealed in blood. To share the spoils, though everyone knew no such promise would hold, far from Morix's Rift. The Vratha Dominion prepared their response. They remembered the last human war well, and they took the behemoth as a personal insult. Their warlord addressed his fleet from the balcony of his flagship. The humans have shown teeth. We will break them and feed their ship to our forges." Thousands roared in approval. The plan was simple in paper. 6 massive dreadnoughts, escorted by a swarm of cruisers and interceptors, would approach the behemoth in layered formation. The smaller ships would harass it, drawing fire, while the dreadnoughts would close in to unleash their heaviest weapons at point-blank range. No ship in history had ever survived a full Vratha broadside. The behemoth entered the trap 2 weeks. Later, gliding into a dense nebula cloud, where scanners worked poorly, the Vratha fleet moved with predatory patience, confident in their numbers. Inside the lead dreadnought, the warlord smiled at the sight of the black shape on his tactical screen. It looked small compared to his flagship. That made victory seem inevitable. Then the behemoth spoke again. "Turn back. This is your only chance." The warlord laughed and gave the order to attack. Dozens of energy lances cut through the nebula, each one strong enough to shatter a moon. They struck the behemoth's hull and fizzled out, absorbed into the black metal without a sound. The warlord's smile vanished. He ordered a second volley, this time with antimatter torpedoes. The explosions lit up the nebula, burning away the gas clouds in a brilliant flash. When the light faded, the behemoth was still there. It had not moved. It had not fired. Simply floated, as if watching them. Then the retaliation began. A single pulse of blue light ran across the behemoth's hull. The nearest Vratha cruiser imploded without warning, folding in on itself like crumpled paper. Another followed, and another. The warlord screamed for evasive maneuvers. Duh. But his dreadnought shuddered violently, the gravity around it twisting until the ship's frame groaned and snapped. In seconds it was gone. The rest of the fleet broke formation, panic overriding. Discipline. The behemoth's weapons were precise, silent, unstoppable. It did not chase the fleeing ships, it simply erased those that stayed too long. By the time the survivors cleared the nebula, half the fleet no longer existed. The battle was over in less than 4 minutes. Across the galaxy, the reaction was swift. Fear turned to outrage. The destruction of a Vratha warlord was no small. Mature it meant blood feuds, revenge campaigns, and escalating wars. Some believed humanity would soon face the combined wrath of every major power. Others whispered a different fear, that even if the galaxy united, it wouldn't matter. In the behemoth's command throne, Admiral Karavas sat in silence. Around her, the crew worked as though nothing had happened. She knew the enemy's next move. They would not come one by one anymore. They would come together with everything they had. That was what she wanted. Her second officer approached. "Admiral, the next waypoint." Kara's gaze stayed fixed on the star map. "We continue to the Forbidden Zone. No deviations." Them follow. Outside, the behemoth moved on, its shadow swallowing the stars. And in its wake, the galaxy's most dangerous predators had just been taught fear. 80 years before the behemoth's silent march across the stars, humanity was fighting for its very existence. Back then, the galaxy barely knew their name. Humans had only just begun to push beyond their own solar system, scattering colonies like seeds in the dark. They were ambitious, stubborn, but small compared to the ancient empires that ruled the spiral arms. Then the Vratha came. The first attack fell on Mars Colony 3. No warning. No negotiations. Only a fleet of warships that burned the surface to ash in hours. The survivors spoke of towering insectoid warriors that killed without mercy. Humanity's defense fleets were outmatched in every way. Smaller ships, weaker. Weapons, no experience in large-scale war. World after world fell. Earth's leaders faced the truth. They could not win by matching the enemy fleet for fleet. They needed something different. Something the galaxy had never seen before. A weapon so powerful it could level the balance of power with a single strike. Thus, Project Black Forge was born. The project's existence was known only to the highest command and a handful of scientists. It was hidden far from prying eyes. In the gravity well of a dying star, where scanners could not penetrate, construction took decades. Resources from every colony were funneled in under false names. Thousands worked on it, but none ever saw the entire design. Each person built only a fragment, never knowing the full shape of the monster they were creating. In that time, the war raged on. Human fleets fought guerrilla battles, buying time. The Vratha grew overconfident, certain they were crushing a primitive foe. That arrogance bought humanity the years they needed. The behemoth's keel was laid in silence. Its armor was forged from experimental alloys designed to absorb energy instead of deflecting it. Its weapons were unconventional, based on theories the galaxy considered impossible. They could manipulate gravity, space, and matter itself. The ship's power core was a captured singularity, tamed, barely, within a containment field of unimaginable strength. But the ship alone was not enough. It needed a crew unlike any other. From the moment the first frame was built, children were chosen orphans from war zones, survivors of destroyed colonies. They were raised in secrecy, trained from their earliest memories for one purpose: to serve aboard the behemoth. No families, no distractions. Total loyalty to Earth command. By the time the behemoth was complete, the war had entered its bloodiest phase. Humanity had lost over half its colonies. Earth itself was under threat. The Vratha prepared for the final push. And then, the behemoth appeared. Its first deployment was over in minutes. The Vratha fleet, 17 ships strong, vanished without a trace. No wreckage, no prisoners. The galaxy called it impossible. Humanity called it survival. The war ended not because of treaties, but because the Vratha stopped coming. They could not explain the weapon. They could not counter it. Rumors spread among their warriors of a black ship that devoured fleets whole of humans who commanded the void itself. And so, Behemoth vanished into the classified archives. It became a ghost story, told in whispers among soldiers and smugglers. Officially, it never existed. The crew was sealed away in stasis, to be awakened only when the galaxy once again threatened humanity's future. Now, 8 decades later, the order had come. In the present, Admiral Karavas stood alone in the Behemoth's observation chamber, the stars spilling across the glass before her. She had been one of the children taken for the program. The Behemoth was not just her command, it was her life, her home, her destiny. She thought of the old war, of the burning colonies, of the screams that still haunted her dreams. The galaxy believed the Behemoth was here to conquer. Let them believe. Fear was a weapon, and she would use it. Her voice carried softly into the come. Maintain course. The forbidden zone awaits. The crew obeyed without question. Far ahead, beyond the reach of most star charts, the forbidden zone lay silent. The galaxy called it Cursidan Expanse, where ships vanished, where no beacon returned. The truth, known only to the highest human command, was far stranger. The Behemoth was going there not to hide, but to awaken something even older than itself. The galaxy had been divided for as long as anyone could remember. Empires bickered over borders, corporations fought shadow wars for resources, and old grudges burned endlessly. But the Behemoth changed everything. For the first time in centuries, the great powers found something they all feared more than each other. Meetings were called in hidden stations, far from public eyes. Alien warlords, council leaders, and corporate magnates sat in the same room without drawing weapons, a miracle in itself. They didn't trust each other, but they agreed on one thing: the human ship had to be stopped. Not studied, not bargained with, stopped. They pooled their fleets. From the ice worlds of the Korathi came hunter-killers with stealth systems invisible to most sensors. From the vast gas cities of the Thavari came agile interceptors armed with plasma lances. The Vratha supplied their largest dreadnoughts, burning for revenge. Even the syndicate pirates who swore loyalty to no Floggerford raiding craft in exchange for a share of the Behemoth's remains. The plan was simple in theory: surround the Behemoth with overwhelming force, block every escape vector, disable it with gravitic nets, and board it. The Alliance believed sheer numbers would succeed where advanced weapons had failed. They were wrong. The trap was laid in the Ashale Corridor, a narrow stretch of space bordered by collapsing binary stars. There was only one safe route through, and the behemoth was heading straight for it. Fleets hid in the shadows of dead moons and asteroid fields, their engines cold. When the behemoth entered the corridor, the hunters pounced. From every direction, ships emerged from hiding, their thrusters blazing. Gravity nets snapped into place, invisible threads of energy, twisting the fabric of space around the behemoth. Hundreds of targeting locks painted its hull. Inside the behemoth, Admiral Kara Voss watched the tactical display without emotion. She had been expecting this. She wanted this. Her second officer glanced at her. "Admiral orders?" Kara's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Advance." The behemoth surged forward, not away from the trap, but straight into it. Its hull shimmered with faint blue light as the gravity net strained against it. The ship's singularity core pulsed once, sending a ripple through the nets. The nearest interceptors lost control, spinning into the void. The Alliance's first wave fired. Dozens of beams and torpedoes lit up the corridor. Each impact vanished into the behemoth's armor, absorbed like rain into stone. Kara gave the next order. "Target their command ships first." The behemoth's weapons were not like those of other ships. There were no cannons, no visible barrels. Instead, faint lines of light traced across its surface, converging in sudden bursts. Where they struck, space seemed to bend. Ships collapsed in on themselves, vanishing without sound or fire. The battle became chaos. The smaller ships broke formation, trying to flee. The dreadnoughts held their ground longer, firing desperately, but one by one, they were erased. The Syndicate pirates, true to their nature, turned on their allies in the middle of the fight. Trying to salvage wrecks, none of them survived long enough to collect a single scrap. Within minutes, the corridor was littered with drifting husks and broken fleets. The behemoth slowed, scanning the wreckage as if searching for something. Then it resumed its course, moving deeper into the corridor. The survivors of the Alliance fled in silence. Pride was gone. All that remained was fear. Back on her command, Thrawn Kara studied the tactical map. She knew the galaxy would see this battle as arrogance, a human warship crushing the combined might of half the spiral arm. That was fine. Fear was the tool. So the more they feared, the more predictable they became. Her second officer broke the silence. "Admiral, the Forbidden Zone is 2 jumps away. Should we prepare for arrival?" Kara's eyes stayed on the stars ahead. "Yes, and send this transmission to all channels." Across the galaxy, military networks lit up with a short message, spoken in the same calm voice that had warned them before. "You have failed. The next step begins." It's somewhere deep within the Forbidden Zone. Something ancient seemed to stir. The edge of the Forbidden Zone was marked on every galactic chart, but only as a warning. Do not enter. Legends said it was cursed. Navigation records told of ships vanishing within hours, their last transmissions full of static and strange whispers. Some claimed it was a battlefield from a war so ancient, even the oldest empires had forgotten the details. Others swore it was the grave of something alive, something waiting. The behemoth did not slow from the bridge. The view ahead was a wall of shifting colors, nebula clouds swirling like living things lit by the flashes of distant lightning. Broken moons drifted in silent orbits, their surfaces scarred by craters and burns. Fragments of ships floated everywhere, rusted alien hulls, shattered weapons, and the occasional frozen corpse. Preserved for centuries in the cold, Admiral Kara Voss stood with her hands clasped behind her back. The crew moved quietly, their faces expressionless. They'd all been briefed on the zone, though no one outside the highest command knew what lay in its center. As the behemoth crossed the border, every sensor on the ship flickered. Gravity twisted for an instant, as though the ship had fallen into invisible waves. The lighting dimmed. Communications fell silent, no signals in or out. They were cut off from the galaxy now. The silence didn't last long. From the shadows of the drifting wrecks, shapes began to emerge. Old ships alien. Designs no one had seen in living memory, powered up and moved toward the behemoth. Their hulls were blackened, their movements jerky, like puppets pulled by unseen strings. Automated defenses, the second officer reported. Or something worse. The old war machines opened fire. Beams of unfamiliar energy slashed through. The void, the behemoth's shields flared once, then absorbed the hits. Kara gave the order without raising her voice. Clear them. The behemoth's weapons lit the nebula in short surgical flashes. The ancient defenders vanished one by one, their twisted remains drifting into the dark. But Kara knew this was only the first layer. They pressed deeper. The colors around them grew darker, swirling faster, as if the nebula itself resented their presence. The wreckage thickened until the behemoth had to weave through the debris. Strange readings appeared on the scanner's brief pulses of energy older than any human record. Then they saw it. At the heart of the zone, surrounded by a ring of shattered planets, hung a single structure. It was vast, larger than the behemoth built, from black stone that glimmered faintly with veins of silver light. It looked less like a ship and more like a monument, its edges sharp and impossible, as if it had been carved out of the void itself. The obelisk, Kara said quietly. Her crew did not ask how she knew its name. According to the classified files of Project Black Forge, the obelisk was not of human or alien origin. It had been found centuries ago, before humanity had even left Earth's orbit, by deep space probes. From another species, the files claimed it held a weapon or a mind that could rewrite the rules of war. No one had ever reached it. Until now, the behemoth approached slowly. The silver veins pulsed brighter like a heartbeat. Strange signals flooded the ship, patterns of sound that felt almost like words, though no translator could decode them. Some crew members shivered without knowing why. Suddenly, the space around the obelisk warped. The shattered planets shifted, moving like pieces in a game. The behemoth's helm officer gripped the controls. It's locking us in. Kara didn't move. Her eyes stayed on the structure. Good. It knows we're here. The ship came to a halt less than a kilometer from the obelisk. The silver veins blazed with light, and a deep vibration rolled through the behemoth's hull. For the first time since leaving Earth, Kara's voice carried something close to awe. Prepare the link, she ordered. Her second officer hesitated. Admiral, we didn't come this far to turn back. Outside, the nebula swirled faster, as if the zone itself was holding its breath. Inside, the behemoth's systems began to sync with the obelisk's signal. And somewhere, in the cold heart of the structure, something old began to wake. The obelisk's silver veins pulsed faster, each flare of light rippling through the surrounding debris field. The shattered planets shifted again, as though dragged by invisible currents. Inside the behemoth, alarms whispered softly, not shrill. Not panicked, just enough to remind the crew that the laws of physics were bending around them. Admiral Karava sat in the command throne, the black and silver glow of the structure reflected in her eyes. Every console on the bridge displayed strange symbols, streaming endlessly, replacing familiar readouts with alien patterns no one could read. The link had begun. A deep hum filled the ship, low enough to be felt in the bones rather than heard. The crew remained steady. They had been trained for this moment since childhood, knew the behemoth's true mission wasn't to fight fleets. That had only been the warm-up. The real objective was to awaken the thing that slept inside the obelisk. Kara's voice was calm. Stabilize the core. We're going to push it to full sync. Energy readings spiked to levels the ship's instruments had never recorded before. The singularity at the heart of the behemoth shivered, its containment fields adapting to something unseen. A blue glow began to spread along the ship's armor, weaving through the original black-like veins of living light. Then, without warning, the bridge went dark. The hum stopped. For a heartbeat, there was nothing but silence. When the lights returned, the displays no longer showed alien symbols. They showed a face, not human, nor any alien species known to the galaxy. It was carved from the same black stone as the obelisk, its eyes silver and endless. A voice spoke, not through the speakers, but inside their minds. Who wakes me? Kara didn't flinch. Humanity. There was a pause, as though the being was considering the answer. Long has your kind been absent from my sight. You come with a weapon. You come with a purpose. Do you seek destruction? Kara's reply was measured. I seek balance. The voice rumbled through every cell in the crew's bodies. Balance requires power. Power has a price. The obelisk's light flared so bright it swallowed the bridge. The behemoth shook as vast streams of energy poured into it, rewriting systems, expanding capabilities beyond anything human engineers had built. Weapons bays reconfigured themselves. The hull shifted, growing denser, sharper.
The singularity.
Core stabilized with an impossible efficiency, its output multiplied tenfold. Outside, the debris ring around the obelisk began to move faster, drawn into a slow spiral. Shattered planets cracked further, their fragments glowing as if they, too, were awakening. On distant worlds, astronomers and military watchers saw it happen. Sensors that had been tracking the Forbidden Zone went wild, registering power levels that defied known science. Every major power scrambled ships, though they knew they would be too late. Inside the behemoth, the voice spoke one last time. "You are bound to me now, as I am bound to you. Go, human. Show the galaxy what balance truly means." The link cut. The face vanished. The obelisk's silver light dimmed, though faint pulses still ran along its veins, like the slow breathing of something resting again. But the behemoth was no longer the same ship that had entered the zone. Its armor shimmered with a living glow, its weapons silent but heavy with promise. Systems hummed at a pitch just beyond hearing, as if the ship itself had been given a heartbeat. Kara gave the order. "Set course for the galactic core." The helm officer hesitated. "The core, Admiral? It's every major power's home territory." Kara's eyes stayed on the stars. "Exactly." The behemoth moved, slipping out of the Forbidden Zone with its new power cloaked behind the same shadow-black hull. But the galaxy had already felt the change. The balance of fear had shifted. And soon, the balance of power would follow. The journey from the Forbidden Zone to the galactic core took less than a week. It should have been impossible. The behemoth slipped through sectors like a shadow, cutting across guarded borders without triggering a single alarm until it wanted to be seen. By the time it entered the core's outer defenses, every major power had mobilized. Fleets ringed the central systems in tight formation, their sheer numbers enough to blot out the stars. Dreadnoughts, carriers, swarms of interceptors, thousands of ships bristling with weapons. It was the largest gathering of military force in galactic history, and all of it aimed at one black ship. Admiral Karavas stood in the center of the bridge, her expression unreadable. The behemoth's upgraded systems thrummed around her, their alien modifications seamlessly woven into human design. She knew every eye in the galaxy was watching, every commander waiting for her to make the first move. "Open all channels," she said. Acom's officer glanced at her. All channels? That's billions of receivers, Admiral." Kara nodded. "They need to hear this." A moment later, her voice filled every military frequency, every civilian broadcast, every private feed. From the frozen colonies of the Outer Rim to the glittering capitals of the inner worlds, people stopped to listen. "I am Admiral Karavas of the human fleet. You have hunted us. You have feared us. You have attacked without cause. And yet we are still here." Her words were calm, but behind them was the weight of the obelisk's power carried in the tone itself. Humanity does not seek war, but we do not bow. The behemoth is not a weapon of conquest, is a reminder. Balance will return to this galaxy, and those who break it will answer to us. She paused, letting the silence stretch. Out in the void, the gathered fleets held position, waiting for a sign to fire. "This is your only warning. Stand down, live in peace, or face the consequences." When the transmission ended, the behemoth's weapon systems came online, quietly, without fanfare. Energy built beneath its hull, the alien modifications turning the space around it into a shimmering haze. The fleets tensed. A Thavari commander barked orders to fire, but his weapons crews froze. Sensors told them the truth: if they'd fired, they would not survive long enough to reload. Across the defensive ring, the same hesitation spread. No one wanted to be first. No one wanted to test what the behemoth had become. Kara gave a final command. "Transmit the coordinates." Data packets shot through the network's locations of hidden weapon stockpiles. illegal slave camps, and secret war fleets belonging to every major power. Within minutes, chaos erupted across the core as old enemies turned on each other to protect their exposed secrets. The behemoth didn't fire a single shot. It didn't need to. As the fleets fell into disorder, the black ship turned and slipped away into the dark. Billions had heard the message. Billions would remember. In the weeks to come, some would call Caravos a savior. Others would call her a tyrant in waiting. The galaxy would debate her intentions endlessly. But one fact was certain: humanity was no longer the small, overlooked species it had once been. And somewhere in the quiet between stars, the behemoth's alien heartbeat pulsed steadily, as if waiting for the next time the galaxy forgot its warning. The monster ship had come and gone. The tremble and the galaxy remained.